Okay? So, again, this is a really deep theory, and we'll go more deeply into this as the semester moves. But I just first want to introduce the idea to you right now, okay? So this comes from Plato and a religion called Gnosticism. Okay? The Gnostics. Gnostic just means knowledge. Okay. So in the beginning, the Big Bang, the force is the monad, or the one. Okay, there are different names for this thing, or nous. Just think of this as a supreme God. Okay, the Big Bang, the force, like the sun almost. Okay, the spiritual sun of the universe. The nous works by breathing. When he breathes, he vibrates his divine power. And through this, he creates new beings called dyads. Dyads are just pairs of forces. Okay? And these dyads then create different realities. All right? So different realities are being created through this interaction. And eventually, you reach Earth. Okay? So, in other words, what Plato and Gnostics are telling us is that the Geist is a multi-layer, multi-dimensional world that we access all the time. Okay? Does that make sense? And the Earth, what we see, it is just the most outer shell in this universe. Is this clear to you guys? All right. So now the question then is, what is the purpose of life in the world? And what Plato says is that the purpose of life in this world is to return to the monad. Okay? And guess what, guys? This is actually the framework for a lot of religions, including Hinduism, right? And Buddhism. This is what the Hindus and the Buddhists believe as well. Nirvana is to return to the monad. I'm not sure if you guys have studied religion before, okay? But that's the idea. So what Plato says is that through the pursuit of knowledge, philosophy, the love of knowledge, you can return to the monad. Okay? Dante, and we will study Dante in depth later on, okay? But Dante has another solution. What Dante says is that the monad is love. Okay? And the monad, because he creates things, his divine spark emanates throughout the universe. Okay? So there is a divine spark in us. And this divine spark is called love. So we are able to love people. Mothers love children. You love each other because of this divine spark in you. And the more you love, the more you return to the monad. Okay, so Plato says, pursue knowledge. Dante says, pursue love. Okay? So now the question is, okay, this sounds all very good, but why does evil happen in the world? Okay, what's the source of evil? Right? That's interesting. Okay, you have this theory of the universe, but then the question then is, why do people do bad things then? Why is there sacrifice in the world? Why are people doing all these bad things and not only getting away with it, but they're also controlling the world? That's a big question, right? So, for Plato, the answer is very simple. This world doesn't matter. Who cares if they control this world? It's a fake shadow world. Ignore them. Just focus on the pursuit of knowledge because that allows you to be one with the monad. Okay? Who cares about this world? Give them what they want. Give them their power, their fame, their money. Who cares? Dante's answer is actually very interesting, okay? That's Plato's answer. It doesn't matter. This world doesn't matter. Who cares what happens in this world? It's a prison anyway. Dante actually proposed something different. He says this. If the monad is love, love is trust. So the monad loves us, and as a result, the monad gives us free will. Now, free will can lead to bad things, for example, this world, but he has no choice in the matter. Because for him to interfere means to take away our free will. And free will is his greatest gift to us. Okay? But now and then, what he will do is he will send messengers to our world to remind us that there is a divine spark in us. And we can activate it and achieve a greater consciousness. And these messengers are Plato, Dante, right? Jesus. Right? Does it make sense? So now and then the monad will send through the Geist, okay? The monad will implant ideas in these people who will then tell us the truth. But it's our choice whether or not to believe it because the monad has given us free will. All right, so for Plato, what's important is the pursuit of knowledge. For Dante, what matters is the pursuit of love, to love each other unconditionally, okay? And that's what they tell us. What the system also tells us is that the powerful want to deny this system, right? Because if they control Earth, the fake world, they want to make it as real as possible. Does that make sense? That's the source of their power. The belief that the only thing that matters is the material world, the prison that we live in. And that's why we have science, right? Science is negation of the spiritual world and the validation of the material world. If you cannot see it, it must be fake, right? Okay? So that's how power works. Now, transgression works in this model because transgression allows the powerful to align to a certain part of this universe, okay? Because in this universe, there are evil forces as well. Does that make sense? So for example, the metaphor is, think of the internet, right? Well, there are millions and millions of websites. And through transgression, by doing the same evil act, what the powerful have done is they've logged on to the same website, right? And because they've logged on the same website, it allows for synchronicity. It allows for them to commit, to think alike and to behave the same way. Okay? All right, so that's the general theory. And again, this is all speculation. I'm not telling you this is true, but I'm giving you a framework to work with to better understand why things happen. We're just speculating. We're using our imagination here, right? I know there's a lot, but Kant, Plato, Hegel, Dante, we will go much more deeper into over the semester. I just introduced these ideas now. Okay, questions, guys? Okay, you had a question from last class, right? Right, so can you ask a question from last class, and I'll answer it first?
All right, from last class, you mentioned that the ones that control society are those old pensioners, right? Because they get revenues from the youngers and they control the society. In our society, I do see signs or phenomena that the government are sort of helping the old pensioners by creating more, say, entertainment or facilities that benefit them. So why is that? Is it possible that the government also benefits from old pensioners' actions, or is actually the governments are controlled by old pensioners?
Yeah, I mean, we discussed this last class, but it's the pensioners, the old people who control society, control the culture, who control government, right? Because in China, from the first day, you're taught to respect your elders, right? You're taught that elderly people are worth emulating, they're worth studying from. They're what's most precious about our society. So it makes sense that the government would create policies to most benefit the elderly. Okay, that's just the structure of Chinese society. Respect for the elderly. Okay, thank you. Any more questions, guys? Yep. Amber has a question.
Okay. So I was just thinking about the model, and I think
The
it's
monad.
This
Okay.
model that we have on the board. So, like you said, the existence of evil is, if you don't mind repeating yourself.
Oh, yeah, so what is evil?
Yeah.
Okay, in this system. Okay, so in this system, what is evil is the denial of the system. Okay? So because the monad is the truth, it's love, right? So the closer you move to the monad, that's what's good. The further you move away from the monad, that's what's evil, right? So at the very end of this model is earth. So the more you embrace the material world, the more you deny the spiritual world, that's what's evil in this model.
Okay.
So for Plato, what's good is the pursuit of knowledge. And what's evil is the pursuit, the denial of knowledge, which includes, by the way, art, right? Movies. Because movies are just a shadow of the shadow world. If the world we live in is fake, and movies, all they do is depict this fake world, then it makes things worse. Okay? And Dante, whatever allows for more love is good. What allows for less love is bad. Okay?
So just to add on to that, so what if, like we mentioned earlier, sacrifice can be considered as a way to unite people. It creates cohesion.
Yeah.
And with cohesion,
it unlocks divine energy because you're accessing a part of this model.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right?
So,
and that's why, as you're doing this sacrifice, they are worshiping a certain god. Right? So sacrifice is part of their religion. It's not done independently. They have a religious framework for the sacrifice, and that's why they do it. Right? They don't do sacrifice for the personal sacrifice. They do sacrifice as a consummation of their religion, because that's what their religion demands of them. Right? And because so they're worshiping a god, they're sacrificing these people to send to this god.
Okay.
Right? So they're accessing a part of this model, which is a lower part, okay? And there are evil beings in this model as well, right? But they go lower.
Okay. So by being evil or like doing the bad deeds, we get, as long as it creates love in Dante's theory, it gets us ultimately closer to the
Monad, yes.
But the evil now that we perceive is constructed by our current society. So
Yeah, so what Dante is saying about our current society is that our society is first and foremost anti-love. It does not allow for people to love each other. So for example, school, right? So without school, your parents would just care about your happiness. But because of school, parents care about your grades and whether or not you get into a elite American college and whether or not you get a good job. And so the parents deny your free will. They deny your agency. And as a result, you don't feel loved. Okay? So that's what Dante would argue. Our society is anti-love because the society is constructed in a way that does not allow for normal human relationships to flourish. Right? In a normal relationship, your parents would just let you do whatever you want. I would think, you know? But because they're like, no. If I let you do whatever you want, you will not do well in school, and you won't be able to get a job, and then you become, I don't know, unemployed and a drug addict. Who knows, okay? Right? That's how they think. Does that make sense?
yeah. So the denial of free will is anti-love, and therefore it's evil, and it limits you from getting closer to monad.
That's right.
Okay, great.
Exactly. Thank you. Yep.
Just like the what Amber mentions that this world is anti-love, but what is the purpose of like not letting us get closer to the monad?
Well, that's a good question, right? Why are they doing this? Because the people in power want to stay in power, right? Because what they're doing, it goes against the monad. But they want to stay in power.
So they gain like benefits such as power by disobeying the monad and letting others like disobeying the monad because they can keep their power.
Okay, so let us be very clear, okay? This is really important. Different people will interpret this model in a different way, okay? In their conception, the monad's the evil one. Their God's the good one. They're liberating us from the monad by making us more focused on the material world. Okay, does that make sense? But the reality is that they were able to get their power because they had a religion that promoted transgression, which allowed them to coordinate well together. And now that they have this power, they need to rationalize why they have this power, and they need to develop systems to maintain this power. And that's why we have the world we live in today. Does that make sense? Okay? Does that make sense? They're powerful, they want to maintain the power, so they will think of new ideas that allow them to keep this power, even if it means denying the truth, okay? And again, guys, this is a theory. No one knows if this is true or not. I don't know. Okay?
But like what you just mentioned, that nomad has two meanings to either.
No. The nomad does not have two meanings. It has different names, but one meaning. Okay, this is really important for you to understand.
But
There are different names for this, but it is the sun, okay? The divine sun, the source of all life.
So Plato defines nomad as knowledge, and Dante defines nomad as love.
No. Okay, listen, okay, you have to get this straight, okay? This is everything, okay? Love, knowledge, everything, okay? The question that Plato and Dante are debating is, how do you return to the monad? Okay, so for Plato, it's the pursuit of knowledge that allows you to get closer to the monad. For Dante, it's the pursuit of love. Okay, but this is the one and all, the infinite and the eternal. What Plato would say is that this is the perfect. This is the immutable. It will never change. And it's the eternal. It's always been there and it will always be there. Okay?
It's really similar to Buddhism, I think.
It is exactly Buddhism.
They're like looking at the same thing. It's like more spiritual
Yes.
aspect of the world and like the ultimate end of things. It's more like abstract concept. It's not something physical that we can interpret as one thing or another.
Yes, this is exactly Buddhism and Hinduism, okay? So this is really interesting how different religious traditions working in different localities have the same conception of the world, of the universe. And can we give someone else an opportunity to speak, please? Okay? So can someone else ask question? Like I know you're enthusiastic, but sometimes you want to step back and absorb the idea. Okay? So you've asked a lot of questions, but go home, think about this some more. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. Does anyone else want to ask questions? Okay, one more question, okay? One.
So, like, just to confirm that.
Okay.
Plato and Dante just like gives us the way to approach nomad, right?
Okay. Can you ask the question again? I don't.
Like, I want to confirm that Plato or Dante, because Plato said that to learn knowledge, and Dante said to pursue love. So they gives the way to let us approach monad, right?
So the monad in the conception of everything is the same, okay? It is a source of everything. Plato and Dante are proposing different ways to become closer to the monad, right? For Plato, it's like spend your entire life learning mathematics, specifically geometry, because he thinks that geometry is really the language of the universe, the secret language of the universe. Dante says, that's too hard, guys. That's not intuitive. Like for Plato's an elitist, right? Plato is like, only if you come to my school and you learn geometry, sacred geometry, will you access heaven. Dante's like, that makes no sense. The monad would not create a system which only the elite, the chosen, could access him. The monad, if he truly loves everyone, will give everyone the capacity to reach him. And that capacity that is accessible to everyone is love, right? Doesn't matter who you are, you can all love. But quite honestly, there are not that many people in the world who can do calculus, right? Right? So Plato's like, you have to do calculus. Plato's like, and Dante's like, that's just ridiculous. That's the most ridiculous thing in the world. Okay? Does that make sense now? Okay. Any more questions, guys?
Like, why is that like a lot of other like religions and Plato or like Dante, they came to the same realization of monad? Like, why is that? Like, it's from different places in the world, different regions, but like, why do they all have kind of the same thing about wisdom or like knowledge in general?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. And the answer is the Geist, right? The answer is, where do our thoughts come from? And where do our thoughts go? Do you really think that it's our brain that produces thoughts? Why is it that with the same brain, right? Same neurological structure, but we have different ideas? And why is it that I have so many ideas and others have limited ideas? Well, like biologically, we cannot explain it. Okay, we've never explained it. So if you study neuroscience, one thing that they will never ever ask is, where do our thoughts come from? Which is weird because that should be the most basic question, right? That's the first question you ask. But they never ask that. Why? Because they cannot answer it. And the answer, the possibility is that Geist exists, and our ideas come from the Geist. And when we think of ideas, it goes back into the Geist, right? It's a ghost. It is with us and it is not with us.
There's just like a big system out there that everything comes from there, so all of the things will go back there eventually.
Exactly. And that's why, and that's how we can explain why all these different religions have the same conception of the universe. Because they're getting this conception through inspiration, right? Through communication with the Geist. Right? Does that make sense? Okay? I think that makes a lot more sense than, oh, the synapses in our brains, They fire together and they hit and like, ooh, we have an idea. I don't know. Okay. Okay, all right, so great. We will continue this next class.